What up, guys? It is JZNES back again to talk about some Pikmin. We're playing Pikmin on the Wii here because that's the new meme we're playing or whatever. But but anyway, so yeah, I beat Pikmin on the Wii there, which I've been doing for a while now, just on and off. Like me and my friend played it one time, and then I just got the urge the other time to like go back and play Pikmin because it's a really interesting game because it's a short game. You can kind of do it all in one sitting if you're really willing to. Maybe about like a 6 or 7 hour kind of game, maybe 8 hours ish, depending on how you do in the game. Uh, and there's a system in the game where it's like a time limit system. So think all the best time limit games like Majora's Mask and whatnot. Hello, bud. Um, kind of like that. You have 30 days to collect 30 parts. So you got to get a part a day, otherwise you're fucking screwed, basically. Um, but not really. I mean, as long as you're there's parts that you can kind of get multiples of in a day, but you got to be resourceful to do it. So you can get back on track, but you don't want to get too far off track. Otherwise, you're definitely not going to make it. And really, it's interesting because the final boss there on the last level, so you get 29 parts, and then you go to the last level. Spoilers, I guess, by the way, for Pikmin if you care, from 2001. Um, you go to the final boss, and he's his own level. But what would have been more helpful is if I had done the first part of the final boss level, because actually have to get to the final boss. There's like a few puzzles before the final boss that just waste time in that single day, because each day is set up on a time limit. It's like 20 minutes or something, like for each day. So let's see, 20 minutes times 30. So yeah, I mean that's you get the idea. So 3 20 minutes, and then yeah. So 30 days you got to save the world there. Um, and yeah, so basically, it's a game where it's kind of like an RTS game where you rumble your rumble wrangle your troops and send them off to do little different tasks and whatever. And there's like build the bridges that need to be built and um, all sorts of little things like that. You can defeat enemies by throwing Pikmin at them or just sending them at the enemies. You can kind of control. The nice thing about this game is it's on Wii, so you can just use the pointer control to kind of aim where you want to send your guys, and then you use certain buttons on here to send them and stuff. So that's pretty cool. And like the C button is to like separate them out to different Pikmin, because there's 3 different types of Pikmin. And sometimes when Pikmin are holding stuff like the bomb Pikmin, the yellow ones, when they're holding stuff, they I don't know what he's looking at. When they're holding stuff like bombs or whatever, I don't know why I'm saying stuff. When they're holding bombs, you can separate them from the non-holding bomb yellow Pikmin, which is really helpful. And it's definitely helpful, especially on the last boss. Anyway, my point about the last boss was you definitely want 2 days to kind of do that if you can manage it. I think that works because I never had the 2 days. I just had the 1 day. But it was a pain in the ass to defeat the final boss because I kept going in there, having to do the puzzle. I got the puzzle down super easy, like all the little steps to it. I got it down like to clockwork or whatever. But the boss himself is very variable because he's has a lot of different ways he goes about his patterns, and sometimes he'll butt stomp your Pikmin and you'll lose a bunch of them, and you need 40 of them to pick up the final part. So if you don't have 40 of them like I did, you have to go back to the beginning of the level, get your guys, and wrangle them all up. And I just barely enough time. I actually made it by 1 second. 1 second I made it by. So, and I had times where I missed it by a second, so that was fucked. I probably defeated that final boss like 7 or 8 times. It's just the time limit that kept fucking me over because I was on my very last day. So, pro tip, if you play this game, try to get all the parts before the 29th day, and then on the 29th day, go into the final level. What I did on the 29th day was went around and actually built up my number of Pikmin, which is a thing you can do in the game by getting all these resources, these like circular thingies, and they all have numbers on them. That means that's how many Pikmin you need to carry them. But the more the number, the bigger the thing, the more Pikmin you can harvest off of it, which is pretty cool. So there's like 1, and there's like 10, and there's like 5 ones, and there's like 25 ones or something like that. Or maybe just 20. I don't remember. But anyway, stuff like that. And when you kill enemies, the bigger the enemy, the more, the more Pikmin it takes to carry them. But if you carry back the bigger enemies, you actually get a lot of Pikmin in that enemy. You get a lot of more resources out of that enemy. So, like, yeah. But anyway. And the resources harvest Pikmin, so you get more Pikmin, and et cetera, et cetera. So you kind of have to balance what color Pikmin you think you're going to need in the future. And that's why the game, I think, being short is a good thing, because you can kind of think ahead for the whole game if you know what you're up against, which is what I kind of had to do. The first run that I got through, not with my friend, but the first run I did myself, I got to the second level and to the end of the third level, and the end of the third level, where there was a part where I didn't know how to get it. Then I figured out that yellow Pikmin actually jump higher when you throw them than the blue Pikmin do. So pro tip, that's how you get the one on the third level that's really high up on the ledge. You use the yellow Pikmin, because that's how that works. So yeah, so that's cool. Each little Pikmin has their own kind of unique thing. The yellow ones jump higher, and they can throw bombs and whatnot when you throw them. And also, so the blue ones, they can go in the water. None of the other Pikmins can do that, so that's really helpful. And then the red ones are resistant to fire. So there's, like, the third level has some enemies that shoot fire, and then, like, the last level has some fire. They're not that helpful, but they're your basic, like, you kind of start out with them. So you kind of build up a lot of them over time. But you don't have to build up a lot of them. You could build up a lot of the blues. You could build up a lot of the yellows. The other interesting thing is that there's only 5 levels with the final boss, but 4 levels. So, and in each level, the first level you get introduced to the red Pikmin. The next level you get introduced to the yellow Pikmin when you find them. And then the blue ones are on the third level. But you have to find each of their ships to kind of, to do that. And at first I didn't actually realize what the blue ship looked like. So I just, like, didn't know it was there. So I was like, where the fuck do you get the blue Pikmin for the water stuff? And then I eventually figured it out. And by that time, I had already wasted a good number of days. But this is technically only my second run that I did just now to finish the game. So that's pretty good, considering by the second run, I already had figured out, like, hey, I mean, it's my third run because I played it with my friend, but 3 runs in, I had already figured out how to, like, optimize the game, basically. I did have a little bit of help on the last level, because or not the boss, but the 4th level, because that level is kind of ridiculous, and I didn't really understand how to get some of the ones on the higher ledges and stuff, and there was some mechanic in the game that I could never figure out. I mean, me and my friend figured it out, but you press some button, and then, like, the Pikmin all line up in certain ways and stuff. I couldn't figure that out. That would have been really helpful, especially on the final level, because it kept falling in the goddamn water, which fucking was annoying. So I don't know how you do that on here, but maybe, like, no, this doesn't press in. I was gonna say maybe there's you press in the analog stick, but that doesn't. You can't do that. So, I don't know, man. I don't know what that control was. I guess I could have looked it up in the manual. This game actually has a manual, I think, right? Doesn't it come with a manual? Yeah, it fucking sure does come with a manual. Let's look that up. Live on JZNES. Let's look that up on the manual. But yeah, so there's a way to do that, which is pretty cool. And the whole game, like, aesthetically is really cool. And that's definitely lining up the Pikmin. Oh, it's down on the D-pad. What the fuck? How the fuck did I not know that? Oh, that's bullshit, man. Well, I made it through the game without that, so I'm a hardcore fucking uh, challenge runner here. Made it without lining up the Pikmin. That would have been really fucking helpful to know, actually. Should have looked that up. Why didn't I think of the manual sooner? I don't know. I could have just looked it up on the internet, too, but... the internet's kind of cryptic sometimes with shit like that. It's like, oh, you don't know how to line it up? It's so obvious, so they don't, like, have it, like, just immediately ready to... for people to consume that information or whatever. Some of the guides also piss me off on the internet. Like, fucking... They have the levels, but they're, like, always, like, 40-minute Let's Plays of the whole fucking level. It's like, just show me the part that I want to find. You know, like, that's why the Pikmin wiki was helpful. It's like, you show me the fucking part I want to find, or, like, timestamp it in the fucking description, you dumbasses. Like, come on. I would have done it if I played Pikmin and I put that Let's Play up on YouTube. Anyway, whatever. Like, you know, you could search anything else. Like, any collectathon game, like Banjo-Kazooie or something. You could probably search, like, any of the Jiggies, and they'd just have, like, a 2-minute video showing you how to get that one Jiggy, but no. I mean, Pikmin's not popular enough, I guess, or something. I just thought this series was pretty popular. Like, everyone fucking talks about Pikmin, and Pikmin this, and... But, yeah, it's good. So, but it's interesting, cause, so you line up, you have these different kinds of Pikmin. I didn't line them up, because I didn't know the button. But it's down on the D-pad, the more you know, right? You get these Pikmin to do all sorts of different things. And the whole game is set up around these puzzles to get these parts or whatever. And you locating the parts is like the first half of the battle. Your map actually shows you like kind of the direction they're in. And sometimes, like one time, the part was like moving. Like while I was moving. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? It turns out the enemy had the part. And that actually happens a few times in the later levels, which is pretty cool. So you actually have to defeat those enemies. Yeah, I was talking about the was it the bread bug or whatever, right? Isn't that the one in the third level where it's like you have to like lure him back to your ship basically. At first you just think he's like a really annoying enemy that like wants to steal your resources or whatever, but it turns out that he like is actually essential to beating the game. There's these fucking little annoying ass like guys in the third level or the fourth level too who there's two of them. There's these bugs that'll come down and swoop down and take your Pikmin and like plant them in the ground elsewhere. Those guys are fucking annoying. So I just kill them. The enemies don't like really respawn for like a couple of days, so it's kind of helpful. So if you kill them, you actually just have a clear path to your like objectives to the farther parts of the level and whatnot. As long as you've killed them, and you want to kill them anyway to get the resources, so you can take them back to your ship to get more Pikmin. That was definitely something. Near the end of the game, I was like, I wasn't hurting for Pikmin, but I was definitely like lower on Pikmin than I had been for like most of the game. So that's kind of why I spent the 29th day going and getting more Pikmin. And I think that was a good choice because of the final boss, but also I would have rather had some time with that final boss to like actually fight him. It would have made the final boss a lot easier. The only reason I like had to try him so many times was because the time kept running out of the day. So that's interesting. But yeah, but I like the earlier levels. They're I like all the levels really, but I like the earlier levels because they're good at tutorializing you and not like I mean there literally is a tutorial that takes like the first day or so of the thing, and they give you a lot of little prompts and stuff to kind of help you along. But I like the first levels because even without that stuff, it tutorializes it well enough to where it's like, oh, okay, this isn't... It teaches you through this good conveyance, you know, from Egoraptor there. Good conveyance of what they want you to do and stuff. There's like gates and stuff that some of your Pikmin can take down. There's certain gates that only the bombs Pikmin for the bombs can take down, and bombs are only like in these little things, and sometimes they're really limited in resources. The final level has a bunch of bombs. So that's just because you gotta use them on the final boss. And you don't technically have to use them on the final boss, but it's really helpful if you use them on the final boss. There's also these flowers, which they have in the later levels, where they change the Pikmin color. So like if you throw a bunch of Pikmin in them, it'll replant them around the flower as the color of Pikmin that the flower is. So like if you need to immediately in that area change to another Pikmin. There was actually one of the ship parts in the last level where you had to throw a bunch of the Pikmin into the thing. So they were blue. You take blue Pikmin to get across this water. Then you need to throw them in this thing to make them yellow Pikmin so they can jump farther. So then they can actually get the part. So that's pretty interesting. It's good stuff, you know. There was this one part with these narrow ledges, and that's when that shit would have came in handy with the fucking lining them up or whatever in the 4th level there. But yeah, no big deal. So it's kind of a game that you need to play a few times to really. I mean, you don't have to. I mean, somebody might be able to just do it all in their first go or whatever, but it's designed to where you want to replay it a few times. I mean, you can just play it through once and get the bad ending if you want, if you don't get all the parts or whatever. But you don't want to do that. You want to get the good ending. So, yeah. Like, technically, you don't have to really try that hard, but really the game wants you to get all of the parts, and that's, like, the point of the game. So, you know, like, yeah. Doing that is really the objective there. Otherwise, the game really doesn't have an objective. But, so yeah. It's and it's really a good challenge getting all the parts, you know. There's a lot of sort of puzzly aspects to getting all the parts, and that's pretty cool. And you definitely use all the resources kind of allotted to you, but you really it's really a game about time management, which is pretty cool. I definitely I think games like that. I think that's something I don't think I like, but I kind of guess I do like that because, you know, like Majora's Mask is one of my favorite games. It's my favorite Zelda, so, you know, for other reasons than the time management, but I'm just saying I actually do tend to gravitate towards those games, but those games always stress me out because it's like, fuck, like, you know, what if there's not enough time? But also, I kind of like that. You're against the clock, so the clock's always ticking, kind of thing. It's interesting, you know. It just gives you incentive, motivation to keep going and just like really try to optimize everything there. So that's pretty cool. I like that. I like time management sort of stuff. But it's a little stressful when you really don't know what you're doing, but like I said, the game is like simple enough to kind of pick up and figure out what you're doing. You'll definitely get the hang of it after like one or so playthroughs, and then you'll be able to probably beat it at that point. The game is not super challenging, but there are some challenging bits, especially like the final boss, because he's also annoying because what he can do is, first of all, he's got like this stomp that like kills a bunch of Pikmin, but also his tongue comes out to like eat a bunch of Pikmin or whatever. What you're supposed to do is when he does that, you're supposed to feed him a bomb with the bomb Pikmin, and then start piling the Pikmin on him, on the front of him, on his face. You can't just pile him on anywhere like most enemies. Most enemies you like want to sneak up behind him or something, but he's a little bit different, where you gotta like pile him all on his face, and then he like shakes him off, and then he goes right away almost usually for another lick to kind of eat up the Pikmin that are just sitting around him. So you got to call your Pikmin back really fast and whatnot. So it's pretty challenging because he's got a really insane amount of health as well. And even if you beat him, you still have to get that part back. Otherwise, it's no dice. You know, it's game over. So the other thing about the game is basically if you run out of days, the game's just over. And that's it. So what you got to do is you got to save frequently throughout the days, but only really when you've made like good progress each day. You know, you don't want to save if you haven't made good progress. You really just want to go back on your save at that point, unless you can make double progress the next day, like if you didn't get a part or something. So if you're not getting a part every day, you don't really necessarily want to save. That was my way of doing it anyway. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to follow this through and see if I can get more parts, but if I don't, At least my last save will be there to where I don't have to play the whole game over again, kind of thing. So that's a good way of going about it. But it's also multiple save slots, which doesn't really help much because I don't think you can't really like save onto the next slot. You can't like make another save, but you can start over basically. So I guess that's something. I don't know. It's not really that important. Um, yeah, but some of the it's interesting. Like so, like I was saying, there's some challenges that are just suited to each Pikmin and whatnot, and the level design and the environment kind of makes for certain, especially like the water parts. Obviously, you need the blue Pikmin, but sometimes the blue Pikmin on the water parts can build bridges for the other Pikmin to get there, and then you got to do a thing. It's like, all right, okay, that's pretty cool. Um, and the challenge of it is a lot of times that like even if you have that certain amount of Pikmin, well, if there's a part there, you probably need like 40 of those guys, and especially like the water level, the distant spring or whatever, which was like pretty much the hardest level. Um, there's a part. Okay, first of well, no, it is those guys, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's them. Um, there's a part where it's across the water. There's a bridge or a gate there. There's no bridge. It's just across this water. There's the gate there, but there's like these yellow something guy. What are they called? Hold on, I got the thing. Um, Yellow Wollywog thing. They're like these frog things that like jump and then they like pounce down onto your guys and just like kill a bunch of them. And they're pretty tough to like take out or whatever. And there's like a bunch of them just sitting there. And I got a few of them down, but like there was just one left, and I didn't really want to sink the resources. I didn't have the time to sink the resources into killing him. So what I would do is I'd just lure him around this thing, and then I'd go and try to get the part or whatever. It was kind of um, you know tricky to do it, but only the blue guys could get that part. But when the blue guys get the part back to land, then the other guys can come and grab it, kind of thing, which is it's just all about managing that kind of stuff. Like, so that's interesting, it's stuff like that you got to think about. It's cool. Yeah, it's definitely a really unique sort of game. Um, it really is what Nintendo was like. Oh, we should make an RTS game that isn't about war and shit. It's about fucking little alien men or something, little alien plant things, whatever they are. I don't know. I mean, technically you're the alien. You land on their planet, but whatever. Also, the humor is kind of spot on in this game. Like whenever you like find a ship part, he'll like say a thing about it. He's like, "Oh, I don't really know what this thing is for, but I think you need it for something like that." It's just he has little things that he says about everything. Captain Olimar there, so he's pretty funny. Um, his little dialogue about or his description of the ship parts and whatnot. So it's funny. It's cute. It's a aesthetically very pleasing game. Um, Especially for its time. I mean, for 2001, the game is very impressive and it's very, kind of ahead of its time, which I think is really cool. So yeah, um, I don't know. I just really enjoy the game. The music is good. It's always keeps you going and makes you feel like, yeah, it makes you feel good. So I like all the music. I like the level design and whatnot. I like the aesthetic of each area. Um, they're not really like super similar aesthetics, but they're like each level kind of stands out, which is nice, and they all have sort of unique enemies and whatnot. So you kind of always get something a little bit different in each level. And I kind of like the aspect that once you get certain Pikmin from the other levels, it's mostly just the water Pikmin. But once you get them, it kind of feels like you've unlocked like the whole rest of the game. Like, so you go back to the first two levels and like go to all the water areas that you can go to before and stuff. So that's pretty cool. Um, and it's always fun to like kind of figure out these bigger than life like boss enemies or mini bosses or whatever you want to call them. So there's like the one where you have to like hit him while he's sucking in the thing right before he's ready to do his like rock attack, and then you like um, shoot on the back of him or whatever when that opens up. And there's like these like bird things at beaks. These are all like in the first few levels there, and then like there's like the big spider thing, which is like a tricky one to do. So yeah, it's like the mushroom guy, which fucking I aced that shit. Like I don't know how the fuck I did it, but you can ask my friend Jameson. He saw me do it. It was pretty insane. I just like knocked him the fuck out in like one go. It was ridiculous, man. Like I don't know how the fuck I did it. It was like I thought it was gonna take like a whole day. It took like an eighth, not even an eighth of a day. It took like no time at all. It took like a minute, like or two, like 2 minutes, 1.5 minutes tops. Like it really wasn't. It probably just took a minute. Honestly, it was ridiculous. I've never done so well on that fight, but it was pretty cool. Um, yeah. So it's just really unique and fun game, and my friend John was the one really pushing me to play it. I'm John, but there's John. There's lots of Johns in our friend group there. But he was the one really pushing me to play it. And, um, friggin' Arlo always talks about these Pikmin games and stuff. A lot of people talk about Pikmin, and I'm just like, you know what? This seems pretty cool. I'll get to that eventually. And I'm glad I did, because it's a lot of fun. And I definitely want to play the other ones once I get those. But I'm pretty sure that the second Pikmin is kind of valuable on Switch there. So I don't know when the fuck I'm going to get that. I think I had an opportunity to buy it at one point. I just fucking didn't. Should have gotten third Pikmin on Wii U too, but maybe it's gone down now that it came out on Switch or whatever, but we'll see. We'll see. Let's see. What was I looking for? Oh yeah. We're just gonna find out live if this is worth anything. Pikmin 2 there. Oh yeah, and I'm playing these on the Wii. I think that is better. I don't know how that would work on GameCube. I assume that the Wii version is better. That's kind of what I prefer anyway, just for this kind of game. Damn, the Selects version is $70. Like the GameCube one is $70, and the Select version is $70. This is fucked, man. Pikmin 2. Okay, that one's like $45. But it's a lot. I knew it was a lot. So yeah, jeez, we'll see when we get to that, right? That's supposed to be like the best one, as far as what people tell me. So it's like Mass Effect 2 is supposed to be the best one. Still haven't got to that yet. Just like Uncharted 2 is supposed to be the best one, but guess what? It's not. Oh yeah, forgot that's coming out next week. I told my friend John that this was coming out next weekend, but it's not. It's coming out 2 weekends from now, I guess. I forgot about Uncharted 2. But Until Dawn, that's coming out tomorrow, so there, that's fun. But anyway, so yeah. So I like Pikmin now, and I'm looking forward to playing the second one when I get my hands on it. If I get my hands on it, we'll see what happens. They need to re-release these games on fucking Nintendo Switch, because they had Nintendo Switch. Like anybody else has a Switch. Because they have Pikmin 3 on there, but they don't have Pikmin 1 and 2. And it would just be more awesome to have them accessible. Pretty sure they don't have Pikmin 1 and 2. I'm like 98% sure that's a thing. That's not a thing. That they're not on there. So, but yeah, tracking on the second game is going to be kind of a pain. But yeah, it was a good game, and I had a lot of fun. It was enjoyable. It was unique. The aesthetic was great. The gameplay was definitely a lot of fun. There were some like frustrating moments, but that was more just up to like me managing my resources and time, and like you know, it's live and learn. That's the game. You just got to figure out the most effective route. And I think that's what's cool about it, is just kind of figuring out what's the best way to get everything done in the most efficient manner. And then, you know, then at some point you just become really good at doing what you need to. And that's cool. So you really feel a tangible sense of progression there, which is nice. But yeah, it's great, and a lot of fun. Lot of fun. I was really like jonesing to play the game every time. Um, like after I played it the first time, I'm like, oh man, I just want to play Pikmin again. But it's like I didn't want to sit down and not have the time to play. You know, that's being video games. I just want to sit down and like really invest myself in them. And this is one of those games, so I didn't really get to it as soon as I wanted to. But I'm glad I started playing it like a weekend ago, and then like now, um, here we are beating it. So that's good. I'm glad, you know, I'm glad I played this because it was really quite a unique experience, and I'm glad that I finally experienced it because it's a game that a lot of people have talked about that I really wanted to get to, you know. So glad I have, but looking forward to the sequels. Obviously, I'm gonna give this a 9 out of 10 because I think that it's super unique and it's just a lot of fun and super well done. You know, it's a short game. I like that. I like when a game is efficient and dense with its content. Each level feels really well like implemented. Like all the parts are there, but it still feels like a bit of a journey to get to them. But it's like it still feels like every inch of every level feels really dense with things like whether it be an enemy or resources or just something's going on in every little corner of each level of the game. And the ship parts can be like really well hidden and stuff, and it's just pretty cool. You know, it's really neat and really interesting. Definitely looking forward to the sequels and whatnot. So yeah, Pikmin, play it if you got it, and you haven't, I guess. So anyways, until next time, this has been JZNES saying keep it classic. Stick around for more reviews, underrated games, and I'll see you guys in the next one. JZ out.